Hi everyone, thanks for spending a few minutes again with me today. We're continuing on with the Bordogni Etudes. This is the collection musical etudes for trumpet, melodious etudes for trumpet rather, Carl Fischer publication. This is number 32 and it's pretty short. I'm just going to go ahead and play it for you and then we'll see what we can find in it. Nice little tune. A little bit interesting because first thing I notice is you have these double-dotted rhythms. And these are vocalises. They're singing etudes. So I always try and sing them, as I've mentioned to you before. You notice when I'm singing, that's a great way to practice it. But there are a lot of different ways to inflect the rhythm. And, you know, I spent a lot of my time playing in an orchestra. And one of the things that you need to do in an orchestra, since it's a very large ensemble, usually playing in a large hall, and you're actually quite a distance from the audience, is you have to exaggerate most of the things that you do. It's difficult to over-exaggerate what you do. When you're playing solos, not so much, especially if you're very close to the audience. So you have to be aware of the differences. And I kind of automatically, because I'm an orchestra player, tend to bump the faster notes. In other words, I give the very quick moving notes a little bit more emphasis so that out in the hall they're going to sound more even with the other notes. And this is something you need to experiment with, but I'll show you what I mean. If I did it with my voice, see I'm bumping that? That's a great thing to practice. Now, there are two ways to do it. I could be doing it with my vocal cords, squeezing my vocal cords to get the note, the upper note, or I could be kind of tossing the air, throwing the air. And throwing the air is what you want to do. You want to leave your vocal cords and your lips in a sense of balance, stability. And of course it sounds different, so I'm going to bump it kind of like an orchestra player would. So I think you can hear the upper note, the 32nd note, is a lot hotter. It's a lot more prominent. And that's something that you need to be aware of. Now I'm going to smooth it out, so I'm going to try not to bump it at all. Now I'm not doing anything to it. So somewhere in between those two is a nice inflection of the music that can give a lift or bounce to everything. I'm going to tell you another little mental trick. Always think about where you're going. That's a basic musical idea. When you have quick moving notes, they're always going to the next note more quickly. In this case, I'm thinking, da-da, da-da, da-da. So I'm leading. Even though I might be emphasizing the quicker note, I'm always going da-da, 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 because that's where the music is going. Now, of course, along with this, you have the notation. You can see you have piano, crescendo, decrescendo, etc. Those, to me, are what are called phrasing dynamics. In other words, if I played it absolutely straight with no dynamic at all, no dynamic change at all, it sounds kind of limp, it sounds kind of flat. It doesn't have a lot of rhythmic energy to it. And it's certainly not showing a phrase. So part of what I'm doing also is showing a phrase. Now, this is a pretty easy one, I think, for most people. You know, intermediate level players can certainly play this, and probably a lot of gifted beginners might even be able to play this because the range isn't too big. And it's basically just playing up and down scales, back and forth between notes. It's the qualities that you're trying to increase here in order to make it sound like it's saying something instead of just being an exercise. So one of the spots where some people might have a little bit of difficulty, and this is typical for trumpet players, is looking at bar 23, going into 24. In 24, there's an interesting pattern. I'll start at 23. You can see, as I said, I'm pretty much playing up and down scales. But, as I'm sure you notice, there are big intervals going down quickly. And that's where most people are going to have problems. So this is what you're aiming for. You want a smooth connection between the upper and the lower note. If there's a bump, if you're gripping the notes with your face, if you notice that there's this feeling of kind of a notch, try and get rid of that. A good way to practice that, as I've said many times before, is sing it. Buzz it on the mouthpiece, because there are no frets on your throat, so to speak. So, but this is something you listen for. And if you listen closely, and this is something you want to listen for very closely when you're practicing it, I'm intentionally blowing from the upper into the lower note. I'm not dropping. And that's something that most players do. They'll drop. They go, see if you can smooth it out a little bit. A good way to do this is, it's mostly mental. Again, it'll help if you sing or buzz it, because it's smoother that way, is listen and be very intentional about the landing place of the lower note. And if you're not, this is a lot like what gymnasts do. If you see a great gymnast doing a routine and when they say they stuck the landing, that's what we're doing here. But it isn't sticking, because in our case, we're not stopping. It's like doing the complicated gymnastic routines that they do, like in a floor routine, for example, and instead of just doom and sticking the landing, they go from one somersault or whatever the move is right directly into the next one. Where we're playing music, the music is always moving. So you have to see where you're going and then realize you're not done yet. Keep going all the way through. So I hope these few little tips will give you something to listen for. We're going to get back into, I'm going to get back into these a little bit more. I haven't made any of these videos for quite a while, and just starting up again. And now we're starting to move into a few that might be a little bit more technically challenging, which I'm very interested in, because it's great to work on your craftsmanship, your skills playing the trumpet, along with the beauty of music that you're trying to produce. So I hope you're having a good day where you are, and I will see you next time you choose to join me. See you later on. Bye-bye.